Hi, my name's Bryan Moss. I live in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. Is it okay if I ask a question?
Yeah,
16 Ruthven Circle in Shrewsbury.
of course.
So, I heard tonight you pulled up the evacuation zone, and you mentioned some other towns. Can you repeat what towns were in that, if you don't mind pulling the slide back up?
Sure. Probably just Shrewsbury, I would think.
It was Shrewsbury.
Yeah,
Yeah, Shrewsbury.
there we go. Yeah, so I mean the radius is predominantly in Grafton, but the north end of it does encompass a chunk of Shrewsbury as well.
Is there Flint Pond there? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, that covers Flint Pond.
So up by Tri-State Truck Center, Pete's
Oh.
Tire Barn. That's
And
that's
it
Shrewsbury.
looks like
Flint's
it looks
there.
like that evacuation
UPS.
zone. Is that an approximate, or is that because I see the high tension lines there, and I know there's a proposed project for the Spectra natural gas pipeline to go right down the high tension wires in Grafton too. So I didn't know if that was an approximate, or if you knew if that did intersect with.
Yeah,
The
no, this is a
proposed-
very, very crude Microsoft Paint approximation.
Okay. Is that something you would consider? Is the proposed project for the pipeline going down that, being so close to that? Would you know in
We didn't
would-
look at that piece of it.
is that something that you'd be looking at, or would you have an official range that then could be mapped against the proposed Spectra pipeline project? Then you would know if it intersected that or crossed over it?
Yeah, that's we have.
We can ask Spectra to look at that location and figure out the distance to the high tension lines.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, the railroad has to produce a two-scale drawing of that, right?
So yeah, it's all part of their evacuation plan piece of the emergency response. So again, how this information gets from their site to all the regulatory bodies that need that information to start that process, all up in the air. How all these people get notified, all up in the air. It's still very nebulous. But I mean, again, this was just, we took the guidance from the DOT just because that's, federal guidance that's out there that we have. And just to give everybody a rough idea of what, if we imply the federal guidelines onto this particular site,
Yep.
this is who we're potentially impacting.
Is this available? Is this available to have or to
This
get?
this particular image?
Like, yeah,
this is in our report, which is on the town website.
Okay, great. So I could share that. I'm part of town meeting in Shrewsbury, so there might be town residents that are interested in that they're in this evacuation zone. Could you explain what would possibly if I was going to go back to talk to residents of Shrewsbury or town meeting members in that precinct and mention that there were people that lived in that zone, what would I tell a person if I walked up to the door and said, "You're in this evacuation zone," and I was on the edge? What could happen to them or their house? What would it?
Yeah, so
I imagine that this covers a scenario which could be catastrophic, but what would I tell them in that scenario? Would they be in?
yeah,
store for?
so if you also in our report in different appendix we have, and I mentioned this earlier, some historical LPG events and what the damage radius is, and we kind of overlay that on the site again just for context. This map compared to those maps, this has a high degree of safety built into it,
Yep.
so it's very precautionary. All of the damage incident overlays were within a couple 100 feet of the site, and this is obviously talking about a mile, so we're beyond an order of magnitude out. So it's very once you're on the outskirts of this, it's a very precautionary thing.
Yep.
So we're
Okay, good. And does that include the extra trucks that might be there, or would that change if you said, oh, there could be these extra, was it 8 trucks plus?
Yeah, again, everything.
Then you would you factor in?
Everything's dependent on scale. So I think the largest one that we had a map for, the largest propane incident was about 400,000 gallons. So that would be, I don't know what, three rail cars plus the entire storage capacity. So, we're looking potentially a little bit beyond that. So everything's a matter of scale. So, I mean, if you add a couple more on, it's potentially a little bit larger.
So could it change given the amount that's in the tanks, on the rail cars, and trucks in the lot?
As a
As
very
the
worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario,
Yep.
this could extend and.
But again, I mean, everything's dependent on the level of controls they're going to have. I mean, if they're, controlling their shipments in so that there's only a maximum of, say, 2 rail cars at any given time, we're not gonna consider 8 because that's
Yep.
not reasonable. Same thing with trucks. So it's all gonna be dependent on their operations and what they're planning on doing with the space, and
We
then.
don't know that yet.
Exactly, we have no idea what they're proposing for those types of things, number of rail cars, number of trucks.
So this is kind of preliminary with what we know now, and it will change, and we could,
Yeah, I mean, we're
bring that.
basically taking our best estimate of, based on the information we have.
okay. And did you say those are examples are cited in the report?
Yeah, so we just looked at some historical incidents that have happened at LPG facilities involving either just releases or, fire and explosion events, and just looking at, the forensic analysis of how far out those the damage occurred.
Yep.
And we just overlaid that without doing any, topographical
Yep.
analysis, and it's just a straight, like, it was 300 feet, so here's a 300-foot circle. It was very first order.
Okay.
But just to get a rough order of magnitude of like what a similar incident has done in the past at
Yeah,
other
because
facilities.
that's the immediate question. I'm sure if I mentioned to them, you're in the evacuation zone, it's because of this, it might change. Their first questions would be like, well, has this happened before? And we can say from the report, here's an example, here's a news story, go check it out.
Yep.
Here's a YouTube video, whatever was captured of it. The other thing would be, what involvement has Shrewsbury town government had with this? Has anybody been notified, or have they been working with anybody over there so that when I go back, would I know who to talk to, whether it be a town manager or a board of selectmen or?
Well, you would hope that the fire department would know because they cited them in their report as being available. So I would start there. I'm sure Dan Regato's, he pays attention to his environment. I'm sure he knows that this facility is proposed.
Okay, so nothing official, so if I go back, it's not like you've known that there's been
No, we haven't had official
correspondence
correspondence.
between
In
the
passing,
Shrewsbury
but,
town government and Grafton town government as far as you know right now, so I could start from scratch.
We had one preliminary meeting on evacuation and bringing up Shrewsbury, that if, once we get involved more, Shrewsbury's gonna be more involved with the evacuation plan.
Great, those are my questions. Thank you for answering them.
Thank you for coming.